Here we go, round 2 of Unified Standard of Day 2 of the World Magic Cup. I'm Rashad Miller, here with Zach Hill. We are about to watch Team Ireland versus Team Belarus. For Ireland, first up, Sean Fitzgerald, and for Belarus, we have Yehop Polshak. What kind of matchup do we have here?
Again, this is John versus red, white, blue. Again, this is a matchup you're going to see all over the place in Standard today and have seen and will see again. So, again, Yehor Polshak and Sean Fitzgerald. Sean there at the Jun deck, Yehor blue, white, red.
All right, so it looks like we have some dueling land for both players. Not a fast start, but just wait. It'll get a lot more exciting in just a bit.
Is dueling land anything like dueling banjos?
It's exactly like dueling banjos,
There are no
actually.
differences?
If you listen closely, you'll hear it's quite the beat.
Well, that's good. Okay, we see a pair of Thragtusk in Fitzgerald's hand. Also a Lifebane Zombie, which can start a clock real quick. It looks like that's what's going to be cast right here, as well as a pair of Kessig Wolf Runs. So any threat Fitzgerald's able to stick is going to turn lethal very fast.
Now, Lifebane Zombie, when it enters the battlefield, allows you to remove a white or green creature card from your opponent's hand, and that card's exiled. Not a lot of targets in the blue, white, red deck, but you know, one of those colors was white, so there's a couple of things you can hit.
Yeah, exactly. You're only going to be able to hit Restoration Angel, but when you do hit it, that is huge, because Restoration Angel, a key element of the blue-white-red deck. Instead, you still get some information and a 3-1 Intimidate. On the other hand, Polshak's hand really, really good right now. It's basically just removal spells and card draw, which is what you want against an opponent who's not putting too incredibly much pressure on you.
Now, he did just draw a card off of Think Twice, and he moves a Pillar to Flame to the front because it is taking out that pesky 3-1 Intimidate.
Yeah, and only spending 1 mana allows him to set up Flashback on Think Twice this turn. Coupled with another Think Twice means he's going to be ahead on a lot of cards by the time Fitzgerald's able to apply any meaningful amount of pressure. The other thing is Bonfire of the Damned, not really what you want to draw in your opening hand. Fitzgerald has one of those, and Amizium Mortars without too many good targets means that Fitzgerald's going to be relying upon those Thragtusk to do the bulk of the work here.
A Flashback Think Twice from Ehor, and a 5th land. And he has more card drawing options in his hand, a couple more Think Twices. So we're gonna be considering a lot of things.
You're going to be thinking,
yeah.
Think 6 times.
And there is a Thragtusk. 5/3, 5 mana, 5 life.
And we're going to see Polshak try and think twice, maybe draw himself into a counter spell right now. But without seeing one, despite a handful of cards, Thragtusk sticking means that Polshak's going to have to spend at least 2 cards dealing with it. And that's going to allow Fitzgerald to recover from some of those Think Twices.
And right now, he doesn't have 2 cards to actually deal with it. A Flashback Think Twice is going to try to find one. And there's a Dissipate, which is a turn and a half a turn too late.
Yeah, it's very slightly too late. We see War Leader's Helix there, again, capable of dealing with Thragtusk for a little while, but that's going to cost him a lot of mana while Fitzgerald simply puts more Thragtusks on the board.
Now, how important is it to get rid of the Thragtusk now while you have, 4 life kind of in your hand in the wake?
Yeah, it's not too important. You're right, Rashad. I mean, you're not just like quaking in your boots about that Thragtusk. The thing is, though, you don't have a Sphinx's Revelation in your hand, so you really want to be able to burn through your Think Twices to have as much information as possible before you figure out, okay, how am I going to deal with this 4-turn clock?
And there's an attack with the Thragtusk, and Polshak just lets it happen. Goes out of 13.
It's a little bit awkward for Fitzgerald. He's going to commit another Thragtusk to the board, which is what you want to do, but that does make Polshak's Supreme Verdict just a little bit more powerful if he does, in fact, want to allow that Thragtusk to resolve.
And it looks like there's going to be a Think Twice in response. That picks up a Syncopate. Is it worth considering syncopating the Thragtusk, or is Supreme Verdict just good enough?
I think it's worth syncopating it. I mean, like, even if you verdict, you're going to have another 3/3 that you're going to have to deal with eventually, and that allows you to use your mana pretty effectively. You still have a Dissipate, and this isn't like the blue-white-red mirror where you need to hold up counterspell mana all the time for Sphinx's Revelation. So I like using a Syncopate there, only having to worry about this one Thragtusk, and just setting up Think Twice after Think Twice until you can find yourself a Revelation.
So it looks like Polshek has 2 War Leader's Helix in his hand. So that's actually exactly what he needs to get rid of the one Thragtusk.
Right, as well as anything else that Fitzgerald may throw at him. Fitzgerald right now, just kind of a lot of loose cards in his hand. He's got Huntmaster of the Fells, which Polshak's going to save Supreme Verdict for. And like you said, Rashad, we're seeing those helices start to be slung right now.
Yep, there's the first one. It's going to both stop the 5 damage and gain him 5 life. So he's going to go up to 19 unless something happens from Sean Fitzgerald. And it doesn't look like Jun has a lot of ways to effectively respond to a War Leader's Helix.
Yeah, except for taking the damage. And Polshak, the velocity just churning along right now, still having 3 mana up for Think Twice. And that's meant that Polshak has gotten ahead by small amounts just every single turn of this game.
Looks like we have a couple of X spells over in Sean Fitzgerald's hand. One of them being a Rakdos Return.
Oh, okay. The Rakdos Return hasn't yet come up in the card viewer, but that's huge. That means that Polshak's got to hold open counterspell mana or risk losing all this incremental advantage from these Think Twice in one fell swoop.
Looks like there's some conversation in regards to that very card and a lot of pointing. That's a beast.
It seems like they're trying to figure out if they played a land already. Huh.
Hey, my 1010 alert just went off. I have a Google alert set to, whenever a 1010 hits a battlefield somewhere. It looks like a Colonian Hydra has hit the tipping mark in the back tables.
And this Huntmaster of the Fells from Fitzgerald's side of the board going to precipitate a very quick Supreme Verdict, I think, from Polshak. Really not disappointed to see that Huntmaster there. You've been holding Supreme Verdict without a good opportunity to cast it. Here's an opportunity to cast it without going down a card. It does require you to tap a little bit low, rendering you vulnerable to that Rakdos Return, but you're not having to tap so low that you can't afford to dissipate whatever comes next.
Is this the best a Supreme Verdict can get against this Jun deck? Or I guess any 3-for-1, you have to just take it.
Yeah, I mean, what you're excited about is that you've traded Supreme Verdict and War Leader's Helix for Thragtusk and Huntmaster of the Fells, meaning that you're not allowing the Jun deck's 2-for-1s to be 2-for-1s, which allows your straight-up card drawing as opposed to the board-based card advantage of the Jun deck to really come out ahead in the end.
Now, Sean Fitzgerald just picked up a Lifebane Zombie, which could take a Restoration Angel from Polshak's hand, but he has 4 mana, so we have to assume that Restoration Angel is going to jump out before that happens.
Yeah, and because Fitzgerald's had to commit 3 mana, you don't really have to be afraid right now of something like Sire of Insanity or Rakdos Return. So the thing about this matchup is it's really a battle of resources. You may see a lot of different cards here, different creatures, different spells, but what you're wanting to do is accumulate advantage. You can do that through Lifebane Zombies, you can do that through Thragtusk, you can do that by killing creatures with Olivia, you can do it with Augur Bolus, Think Twice, Sphinx's Revelation. But what's happening right now is that Polshak is forcing Fitzgerald to trade all of his cards 1-for-1 with him, which is allowing his Think Twices to really just take over the game. Even if Fitzgerald's able to putrefy that Restoration Angel or Mizzium Mortars it like we just saw, it's a 1-for-1 trade, and you don't care about that when you're up this many cards.
A draw and Dissipate for Polshak add to the collection of quite the impressive cards. And there's a Pillar of Flame, which has found a great target in Lifebane Zombie 2 times in this game.
So with Putrefy in his hand, Fitzgerald's not afraid of dying to anything anytime soon, even a Restoration Angel, but what he needs to do is get ahead, and that Primeval Bounty is almost a way to do that. And really that means that if he can draw any more creatures, it turns all of those into the need to produce 2 removal spells from Polshak or a steady stream of Supreme Verdicts. And I believe if you're Polshak, you might want to counter this, especially since you're holding 2 Dissipates in your hand.
Yeah, we definitely saw Li Shiqian play this in the World Championship a couple of days ago, and we didn't see it from the very start, but when we came to that game, there are a lot of Beast tokens in play.
Yeah. I mean, it's, it doesn't do anything by itself, but these are games that are not going to end shortly. I mean, the Jund deck has nothing, if not a lot of removal in its deck. And what that means is that Primeval Bounty is going to have the time to do its work.
Remember that 10-10 that I told you about? Well, my phone vibrated again because it became a 22-22.
Goodness.
And that was enough for the match. Well, for the game, Toot is up 1 game over Miedzecki.
And we see the Restoration Angel at the battlefield. Of course, the Rakdos return that we were talking about forever simply got countered. So that means that Polshock, out of counter spells, but does have a creature on the board with 2 removal spells. Turnburn, of course, capable of taking care of Thragtusk by itself. Angel probably not long for this world with Putrefy and Bonfire on the table, but matchups really turned into kind of a top-decking contest. The difference being, of course, that one deck has Sphinx's Revelation and the other deck does not.
Well, it has Thragtusk.
Does have Thragtusk, and this is the 3rd Thragtusk we've seen from Fitzgerald's side of the board. A card that would be a lot more intimidating had Polshock not had a Turnburn already in his hand.
That's right, and it goes in with a Bonfire of the Dam that's also in Fitzgerald's hand to go along with the Putrefy that you mentioned a little bit earlier. And there is a Scavenging Ooze. Kind of been a breakout from M14.
Yeah, one of the most powerful cards in the set. When we were developing M14, we were really nervous about this card. I mean, we knew it was a legacy staple, but in the end of the day, we thought, okay, this card's really good, but one of the reasons it's very powerful in legacy is there's a lot of graveyard synergy there that just doesn't happen in most standard formats. Of course, Reanimator a thing because of Innistrad, but we thought this would be an exciting card to put in that would, be good in mid-range decks, good even if there's no graveyard shenanigans going on, and an exciting card to put into the modern format as well.
Right. Now, while Polshock decides whether or not to use this World Leader's Helix on the Scavenging Ooze, I need your honest opinion on lands in front of creatures.
I literally don't notice. It's funny to me that this is such a subject of conversation. I've never paid attention to it. To me, I kind of like it, to be honest, because it separates, what's attacking in the red zone from what's not. But I really don't have an opinion either way.
So there is the War Leader's Helix on the Scavenging Ooze. And it looks like Fitzgerald's seeing if he can grow that ooze to be big enough to survive. And it doesn't look like he has enough green sources. But he will get some value out of that ability and get rid of, looks like, not sure what instant it was, but something to make Snapcaster Mage a little bit less valuable.
Right, yeah, it looked like a Supreme Verdict to me. I think what you're going for with that ooze is exactly like you said. Even though it normally exiles creatures, it can exile anything. And that makes the next Snapcaster Mage that Polshock draws just a little bit worse. You have to expect if a Revelation was in the graveyard, that might have been the first target.
Now, Fitzgerald does have a Keswick Wolf run in play, so just about any creature he plays is going to be devastating.
Might be devastating.
Might be devastating.
I think I've said obviously this tournament about as much as I said devastating at Grand Prix Portland.
So Augur Bolas picks up an Exorius Charm for Polshock.
And that's really kind of what Polshock wants here. Polshock just wants to draw some cards and add some velocity and draw himself to a Revelation. I mean, he's up tons of raw cards, as we can see from Fitzgerald's 6 lands to Polshock's 9, I believe that is, with a comparable number of cards in hand, 2 to 3 cards. So Polshock ahead on raw cards, but he now needs to turn those cards into something.
Now, he just turned his Azorius Charm into a Restoration Angel, which will in turn could change into an instant or sorcery with the extra activation from the Augur of Augur Bolas.
BDM over the thing saying, Azorius Charm, when you cycle it, is kind of like casting Think Once. But Fitzgerald, he's got to be kind of happy about that Thragtusk right now. I mean, he's been through 2 and has forced Polshock to use resources on it. But what you kind of want to do is stick a smaller threat now and try and leverage your Kessig Wolf run. And also, of course, get that Restoration Angel off the table while you can.
So it looks like Putrefy is going to take out the Restoration Angel. And obviously, the Restoration Angel that's in Polshock's hand cannot save any other angels. So it has to go bye-bye. And there's a Farseek to increase Fitzgerald up to 7 mana, which will make that Keswick Wolf one a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, and it's really hard to overstate the importance of Kessig Wolfrun, not just in this matchup, but in the deck in general. It's why the deck can play stuff like Arbor Elf, although this particular list does not. And really, why the longer the game goes, even against the Sphinx's Revelation deck, you know, one of the advantages of things like Revelation is just put your life total out of reach for your opponent to end the game because their threats aren't getting bigger while your life total does. But Kessig Wolfrun means that if the game goes incredibly late, all that life that you've gained from your Revelations or from your own Thragtusk can just go out the window because your opponent's going to kill you in 2 or 3 attacks regardless.
And there is the Augur Bolus, and it picks up a Sphinx's Revelations, which is obviously exactly what Polshak wanted.
Yeah, Polshak's about to untap with the ability to Sphinx's Revelation for 6 cards right now. And it's not as though Fitzgerald can counter that. We see a Snapcaster Mage off the top of the deck from Polshak, really allowing him to pull away right now. And unless Fitzgerald can stick something good very quickly, or maybe draw another Rakdos's Return, I believe this game is slipping out of his hands.
Soon to be buried underneath cards. I'm sure this Sphinx's Revelation is going to happen probably at the end of turn. Do you wait? Do you need to do it right now?
I don't think there's any need to wait. I mean, you've got Snapcaster Mage in your hands, so you're not really worried about running out of gas. You might go ahead and turn burn this Thragtusk just to avoid having to worry about it and deal another damage with your Augur, but I think the play is just a Revelation while you have a bunch of untapped mana and you're not really under a whole lot of pressure.
And that is a Revelations for 6. So Ihor is going to go up to 29. Not a lot of damage being done. And I believe that the Jund player wants to be the beatdown.
Yeah. Normally, you're trying to be aggressive when you're Jund. I mean, the matchup gets a lot better after sideboard. You can kind of fight a control fight because you have tools like Underworld connections that can keep you in a comparable card advantage state. But in game 1, you're trying to get anything on the board as quickly as you can. Ideally, a Liliana, which Fitzgerald doesn't even have game 1. So right now, that's going to be a lot of Thragtusk attacks to reduce ER from 29 to 0.
Yeah, and Fitzgerald's going to have to fight through that fist full of cards that Polshak is just holding. Couple of Snapcaster Mages, still has a turn burn. He has a lot going on. Syncopate, Azorius Charm, and another Sphinx's Revelations, it looks like.
Yeah, now one of the things that used to happen, talking about that fistful of cards, is that Jund was able to disregard some of these counterspells and Snapcaster Mages for counterspells with Cavern of Souls. We saw that out of the Naya deck too, we saw it out of a lot of the Humans decks, but Cavern really been on the decline, and that allows the old school combo of Snapcaster Mage into counterspell to be extremely powerful here, and you know, we're going to see a lot of that.
Looks like Sean wants to force some damage through, considering a Kessig Wolfrun activation on Thragtusk.
Yeah, and all Polshak's got to think, yeah, we're seeing Kessig Wolfrun being activated just essentially to give Thragtusk trample. You have to expect Polshak block there just to get Fitzgerald to tap mana. There's no way he was not going to cast Turn and Burn on that Thragtusk.
And there's Olivia Valdarn.
Olivia, one of the very few threats from Jund that can single-handedly just dominate an entire game by itself if left unchecked. You can't expect Polshak to allow this Olivia to resolve.
And that is true. Syncopate removes it from the game. Partially relevant because of things like Scavenger News.
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, now we're just going to see Polshak really put a clock on. We're going to knock Fitzgerald to 15 right here. He's got a Pillar of Flame, Snapcaster Mages, which can start attacking if they need to, and unless Fitzgerald has a string of really decisive top decks, you have to think that Polshak's exactly where he wants to be right now.
Does Huntmaster on the Fells count as a decisive top deck?
It's certainly not bad. Huntmaster great, obviously, against a deck like Flash, where you just want to that just wants to pass the turn to you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That'll allow Huntmaster to flip really quickly. But with this many cards in Polshak's hand, the question isn't whether he can deal with it. The question is how.
I have a feeling this is going to get Snap-apated.
Snap-apate. That's out of Un-3.
And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and right now, Polshak, as much as dealing with that Huntmaster, also just wants an additional 2-1 on the table. This is now 6 damage a turn. That'll kill Fitzgerald in 3 attacks and get him very close to within range of that Pillar Flame within 2.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 damage on the table for Ihor, and it's almost incidental damage because these creatures have come into play and drawn Ihor cards, and now they're the win conditions.
And that's what's so powerful about this blue-white-red deck is that its win conditions are also part of its engine. And it is so great when you don't have to play dedicated win conditions in a control deck, because that means your entire deck is just dedicated to drawing more and more cards.
So Fitzgerald still has a bonfire to damn that he's been holding on since the beginning of this game. Is there any value in that?
Oh, I mean, he's going to try to do it now to wipe Polshock's board. The problem is there's no way that's happening.
Is it going to get Snapple-pated?
A different kind of Snapple-pate this time, potentially, and that's the game. Fitzgerald's finally, after emptying his hand, had enough of this.
That's right. So we have just watched Fitzgerald lose game 1, so Polshock leads 1-0. So we're going to be switching over to table 2, which is David Toot versus Pavel Miatzetsky.
I'll go ahead and dig up those deck lists so we know what we're seeing.
We'd like to thank Gaming Etc. for being an official card retailer here at Worlds Week. Use the promo code World Cup when ordering and on GamingEtc.com to earn 10% off all singles and accessories. For more information, visit GamingEtc.com.
All right, so from Pavel Miatzetsky, we're seeing a red-black aggressive deck. Looks like a hybrid between zombies and vampires. We see Blood Artists, Knights of Infinity, Blood Throne vampires, but also Geralf's Messenger, Falkenrath Aristocrat, Zealous Conscripts in the main deck to steal stuff and sacrifice it. Also Gravecrawler, Diregraph Ghoul, the good old 1-2 punch of strict upside, or nearly strict upside, Jackal Pups. Really potent, aggressive deck from Miatzetsky. I kind of like this list. Then on the other side of the table from Toot, we see basically a green, mono-green ramp deck like the one that Hall of Famer or Hall of Fame elect Billy Jensen played last week at the Star City Open.
I'm really excited about this deck.
Yeah, this deck puts giant dudes into play. We did a deck tech on it recently from Godenis Vedagiris. What we're seeing differently is white in the main deck for spells this time in the form of Voice of Resurgence.
All right, so we kick things off with a Gravecrawler versus no one-turn play for Toot.
So, yeah, almost never do you see this deck fail to have a one-drop, but it looks like he's going to be curving into Elvish Visionary, potentially an Elvish Archdruid later on. The question is whether those cards can stay alive long enough to allow him to stabilize.
Well, it looks like we're auto-bulling to an Elvish Mystic that we just drew.
Oh, the good old turn 2 Elvish Mystic.
Hey, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, man.
Yeah, man. And that Elvish Mystic promptly eats a tragic slip. It banana peels itself as
Straight into a grave.
Gets in the red zone. Yeah, right. Ah! I lost track of where I was going.
Shouldn't walk so close to, freshly dug holes in the ground. I don't know. So David Toot goes down to 16 from Gravecrawler beatdown, and Gravecrawler is joined by a Lifebane Zombie.
Yeah, Lifebane Zombie has a lot of options right now. Very, very potent against this green deck because it relies so much on singular threats. That said, double Wolfer's Silverheart Colonian Hydra means that you're not going to be able to take a threat and rely upon that. I think the target here is Elvish Archdruid.
Yeah, if you can't take the threat, the next best thing is the Mana Engine.
And he's now debating between Visionary, which Toot can actually cast, and Elvish Archdruid, which can power out all the rest of that ridiculousness.
Well, right now, the Archdruid is only going to make 1 mana, so it's really just a 3-mana Elvish Mystic. Did he just take both? What happened?
Yeah. That's one way to solve it. Get him out. I errated the card.
Oh, there's some discussion. Which green guy do you like better?
I'm looking at the numbers on Miatzetsky's deck, and I really like this. Yeah, you can tell he put some work into this list. 1 copy of Rakdos Guildgate, 1 copy of Mutavault, 2 Bloodthorn Vampire, 2 Doomblade, 3 Tragic Slip. This is a really well-engineered machine right here.
And it looks like the choice is Elvish Archdruid.
Yeah. And it's not easy to discount the 3-1 evasive body of Lifebane Zombie on top of everything else. I mean, not only is it a source of card advantage, not only is it good at trading, that Intimidate means it can kill you really quick.
And I'd have to guess this mono green deck does not have a lot of ways to kill a creature.
Yeah, I think it's got Garruk Relentless out of the sideboard and really not a whole lot beyond that.
So in comes another attack. Gravecrawler and Lifebane Zombie against an Elvish Visionary, which really did its job. So.
Yeah, exactly. And it has better targets to block than Gravecrawler, and no need to block it right now either. Rashad, you were mentioning removal. Actually, this particular list does not even have Garruk Relentless out of the board, so it's not going to be killing any creatures.
Gravebane. Jareth Messenger comes down for Mietzetsky.
And this is really kind of a one-sided game. Mietzetsky has got 2 Falcon Wrath Aristocrats in his hand that can end the game if he draws a 4th land very fast. 2 all the way down to 9. Geralf's Messenger dinging him for 2 when it enters the battlefield. And with a handful of 5-mana spells, he's not going to really be able to develop his board very much on this particular turn.
a lot of 5-drops and 4-drops, and it's looking very mid-rangey, the deck is from Toot, but that's what happens when there's no 1-drops in this draw.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's why you play 12 of them, because you really need one.
And there's Falcon Wrath Aristocrats, who likes to end games really fast as he comes down into the red zone. And Mietzetsky ties it at 1 apiece. Looks like we're going to go back to the blue-white-red versus mono. Right after this, we're going to see some more Magic, but right now, we're going to talk about Magic Online, because Magic 2014 is available now on Magic Online. Crack some packs for M14 Booster Draft and Sealed Deck queues right now. Starting August 2nd, you can enter 64-player Premier Drafts and Top 8 Sealed Deck events to earn invitations to the Magic 2014 Release Event Championship, to be played on August 18th. For more information, visit mtgonline.com. So now we are going to the back table to watch Stefano Rampini versus Ihar Klionski. Now, I really wanted Mr. Rampini to be playing the green deck.
Mana Rampini?
Yeah, and I'd like to think in my heart that he fought to be the person to play that deck, but then, cooler heads prevailed, and he has, been assigned the blue-white-red flash deck.
Well, certainly what he has been assigned right now is to figure out how to beat Hellrider plus Domri Raid. Domri Raid, exactly what you want on the board against any kind of control deck, sitting at 5 loyalty outside the range of War Leader's Helix. That is going to draw a lot of cards for Klionski.
And speaking of drawing cards, we just draw a big one with Thundermaw Hellkite.
Yeah, we see Strangleroot Geist, Flinthoof Boar, and a pair of Thundermaws in the hand on top of other threats. That's going to mean that Rampini needs to muster a lot of answers to these threats in a hurry.
Really fast, because he is only at 4 life, and Rayson's not going to do it because Ihar is at 21.
Yeah, right, exactly. And 2 Thundermaws means that is a lethal attack that can't even get stopped by a flying blocker. Oh, wow. Burning Earth on top of everything. If he sticks that this turn, Rampini literally cannot cast spells.
Ihar's hand is just full of cards that he can play and not win the game right away, but win the game right away.
Yeah, I think Flinthoof Boar, if he's able to get to his attack step, might just be it, because either way, Hellrider is going to trigger 1, potentially 2 damage, plus the additional 3 if a creature gets through.
So it looks like they are considering the Flinthoof Boar, but first, there's going to be a fight.
Right.
Hellrider versus Augur of Bolas. Who wins this one?
If Augur of Bolas wins, something weird has happened.
Looks like no one wins. It's a draw.
They're like, guys, I'm not feeling this right now.
This is just not happening. But Rapini whiffs on the Augur trigger, and
Yeah.
4 mana, there is Burning Earth that he's able to stick. So now, you're right, Rapini can't cast any spells. He has 3 mana that he can work with for the rest of this game.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're Kleonsky, that's exactly what you want to happen. Honestly, if you know the Augur dies, something could always happen to your Hell Riders. Something could happen to your Flinnoff Boar. But when your opponent's tapped out and you play a card that says whenever he taps mana, he takes damage, you're at liberty right now to do whatever you want.
And there's the 5th land from Kleonsky, which is going to enable him to cast the first of these Thundermaw Hellkites, which should be all it takes, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to get syncopated for 1, which is going to drop Rampini to 2, and Rampini's going to need to gain some life in a hurry so he can activate the spells that are in his hand.
All right, so Syncopate for 1 does counter the Thundermaw Hellkite. It does 2 damage to Rampini. It's going to go down to 2, which makes Hell Rider even more lethal.
Right.
No activation of Dummy Raid unless we missed one. I believe it was on 4 counters before.
Yeah.
Not really relevant this game, but he did use it to fight. This was the turn to use it to fight.
Turn lasted a while.
Yes, it was. It was. Oh no, it was last turn. It was last turn, so he didn't use it. He fought the same turn that he played the Burning Earth.
Right, right, exactly. Okay, now he untapped and cast Thunderball the next turn. So he didn't use the red, but he's using it now. Didn't see anything and is going to say, all right, here's some more hasty threats for my Hell Rider to
Here's
trigger.
another way that wins this game. Hell Rider plus a haste creature. And Kleonsky ties it up back there at the back table at 1 apiece as well.
Yeah, Kleonsky had about literally 400 ways to win that game. All I had to do is cast a spell or hope his opponent cast a spell.
Ultra Pro is the leading manufacturer of trading card game sleeves and deck boxes. If you're looking for official Magic 2014 portfolios, card storage boxes, deck boxes, sleeves, and play mats, Ultra Pro has you covered. For more information, visit wizards.com/magic merchandise. So as we move our cameras again, the coach has to play one-person musical chairs with the cameraman. You know, there's a lot of tangling up. Even when I'm walking around trying to, get the live totals or, let you guys in the booth know what's going on. The cameras are there. You have to really be, aware of who they are pointing at. And if you have a chair sitting where the camera needs to be, you got to go.
Between 6 players, 2 coaches, the spotter, the I guess tracker is the word I use for it, who's keeping the life total and updating the feed.
Wait, does he hunt down beasts?
Yeah, the Uvenwald tracker. Then you've got your camera people. Then you've got your text coverage team. Altogether, there's a lot of human beings up in the feature match area.
I think there are more people standing around than there are playing right now.
Look, man, it's some enticing programming.
So it looks like we are back. We are back on the middle table to watch David Toot versus Pavel Miadzetsky.
All right, what is that a Flames the Fire? What is that card right there in Russian?
Is... I'm not sure. You know what? My Russian isn't as good as my Spanish. My Spanish is pretty bad. It's probably a Flames of the Fire brand.
It might be Mark of Mutiny, which is the 2 in a red card that I'm seeing out of the sideboard. That also seems pretty good against a deck full of giant fatties. So that's what I'm going to guess that it is.
We may get another chance to see, or maybe the cards in hand are updated. It is a Mark of Mutiny.
Yeah.
Funny enough,
batting average.
Funny enough, the last card to actually get added to the cards in hand. So the judge on the floor was just as confused as we were.
Oh, goodness. This is a slightly slower hand from Miedzvetsky. A lot of 3-drops that you can't really cast all at the same time, but Blood Artist there ensuring that if stuff starts dying, there'll be some damage on the board. Mark of Mutiny, again, exactly what you want to happen if your opponent starts to cast things like Colonian Behemoth. or Colonian Hydra, you can whack them upside the head. Particular synergy between Mark of Mutiny's +1/+1 counter and the Colonian Hydra's normally upside ability. That is even more damage. That is, in fact, 10 damage.
So this slow hand that Miadzetsky has, can it beat a 5-card hand from David Toot?
It can if it draws a third land. If it doesn't draw a third land, we might be in for a pretty weak back and forth.
So Mark of Mutiny, that's an interesting card to bring in against, the big green fatties deck.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's exactly what it's in your board for. I mean, he's got 2 Zealous Conscripts in the main deck, but sometimes, you don't want to overload your 5 slot. And with the ability of the green deck to power out fatties as early as the 3rd turn, that just means that sometimes your Mark of Mutiny is going to be the only thing quick enough to come out faster. Your Zealous Concept might be too slow. The other thing that Mark of Mutiny does is if you steal a Wolfer's Silverheart, you can actually break the Soul Bond, which can allow you to attack through the previous creature that might be halting your attack.
You can break the Soul Bond. If you have enough mana, play a creature afterwards. It might have haste. It might not. If it has haste, you can pair it, and then you can get its all plus side.
Seems pretty good. And this deck does have a few haste creatures. It's got the Zealous Conscripts, as we mentioned, as well as 4 copies of Falkenrath Aristocrat, which conveniently have evasion and pair very nicely with Silverhearts.
There should be a word for things when you get more than what you pay for. Like,
is it the same as the name for a certain menu at fast food restaurants?
It just might be.
Like a certain 90s band, I am all about value.
There we go. 5 cards for Mr. Toot. And there is 2 land and a couple of Voice of Resurgence. That's reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, that Cavern of Souls might be naming Elemental, but it's, you really want your 5-card hand to contain a ramp spell. But you can do a lot worse than 2 copies of what's arguably the best 2-drop in Standard.
Yeah, so instead of being a ramp combo draw, this is just a regular draw. But there is a ramp spell right there in Avacyn's Pilgrim. So now you have to decide what do you name?
Elemental?
And Elemental it is.
All right, and you saw his teammates saying, no, get on the beatdown plan, get those voices on the table. So that's what he's doing. Avacyn's Pilgrim remaining in his hand is something you could theoretically cast next turn. Maybe you draw an extra land. You want to make available use of your mana, and now we're seeing a similar dilemma being presented to Teat this time.
Yeah, so Miadzetsky's answer is a Gravecrawler, which cannot block. So I guess when you got to race, you got to race.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we might see. Now, I don't really want to race against the deck with Geralf's Messenger Falkenrath Aristocrat, but sometimes you're not in a world full of options. And we're going to have to see if Voice of Resurgence is going to hang back to block that Gravecrawler, or if it's going to be getting in for 2 points of damage.
Looks like it's getting in for 2. That's going to bring Miadzetsky down to 18, and the second Voice of Resurgence has got to be coming out, and there it is.
Cavern of Souls naming Elemental doing some work this game.
Can't see what that card is. It was just picked up. I think it might have been a Lifebane Zombie.
May have been. I also think he just drew a Tragic Slip pretty recently as well. So several different options for Miadzetsky.
And there's Gravecrawler getting in. No one ever wants to trade with that guy.
I can't imagine why not.
I know. He has his binder full of rares, and no one's like, nope, no trades.
I mean, if a dude's crawling along the ground with no lower half, I might not want to try and get some Baneslayer Angels off of him.
So the 2 Voice of Resurgence just come in. It's going to bring Miadzetsky down to 14, and a little pump fake of Arb Elf.
Well, and we mentioned this earlier, the way Miadzetsky loses this game off Toot's mulligan to 5 is if he doesn't get his 3rd land, and it looks like Miadzetsky not seeing a 3rd land.
All he can do is attack with the Gravecrawler again. Still no trades. He's losing this race. But there is a Blood Artisan on the battlefield, and there's Tragic Slip to keep Toot's mana down.
Yeah, and actually being able to kill creatures is really important for Miadzetsky, as he can pad the life total and put in additional pressure. Every 2 creatures that dies is an entire turn of Voice of Resurgence attacks, so Miadzetsky actually probably kind of happy to have had that target for that Tragic Slip.
Another attack is going to bring Miadzetsky down to 11, and there is the Avacyn's Pilgrim.
All right, the hits keep on coming. We see yet another grave crawler. 2 damage at a time, but Miedzvetsky has got to be disappointed that he does not have a third land after this many draw steps.
Now, there's a Bloodthrone vampire. So is there any chance that looping grave crawlers in a sack outlet with the blood artist is a way to win this race?
Well, he has 2 Bloodthrone vampires, so it's definitely possible. The challenge is simply having enough mana to do that.
And he plays the vampire, which allows him to block profitably one of these voice resurgences.
Yeah, in FFL testing, we actually thought Bloodthrone Vampire Gravecrawler was going to be more of a force than it was. Certain graveyard hate cards being directed at other things, plus the general underpoweredness of Bloodthrone, plus the ubiquity of Pillar of Flame and Tragic Slip probably made that worse than it was in our internal testing, but I'm glad to see it at work here for Miedzvetsky.
Elvish Visionary comes down for Teuton. He picks up a Garrett Caller of Beasts.
It's not a bad one to draw.
Probably a little bit, out of the realm of possibilities for this game right now.
Yeah, certainly going to need at least a couple more lands to make that happen. The question now is, how does he attack? That Bloodthrone Vampire represents a lot of damage. A red-black deck likely to have a lot of removal spells, and Gravecrawler still chipping away for 2 per turn as well. So a lot of decisions for Toot, even with his opponent only at 2 lands.
Now that the Bloodthrone Vampire actually sets up the mark immunity very well.
Yeah, it sets it up incredibly. You kind of are at the point where you really want your opponent to cast that Hydra, which might incline you not to cast Lifebane Zombie, because choosing not to take that creature may signal that something's up to your opponent.
All right, so there is the block with the Bloodthrone Vampire and the sacrifice of the Gravecrawler that we knew was happening.
This means that we get to kill that Voice of Resurgence token, providing a nice, juicy Mark of Mutiny target on its own. And simply, again, preserving Miedzvetsky's precarious 10 life points.
Right, so that token is now a 4/4 green and white elemental. All those things not as relevant, mostly just a 4/4 card.
Relevantly gets smaller right now if it's marked. Not that the mark is going to do anything with the Pilgrim and the Elvish Visionary still on the board.
Yeah, so the life totals are 11 and 11. Don't forget that we have Blood Artist triggers that are going to be tweaking the numbers here and there.
Pretty powerful if Miedzvetsky just gets a single zombie on the board. All of a sudden we can start chaining those grave crawlers, and that's a lot of life points.
There is a Blood Crypt untapped, so that's going to be 2 life loss for Miedzvetsky. And there's Lifebane Zombie. So are we going to telegraph some weirdness with this trigger?
I think we just probably take the Hydra and say, all right.
Because you can always take the other Voice of Resurgence and have a token of your own.
Yeah. That's really not bad. And you're close to just straight up killing your opponent. I mean, you're a few attacks away, but if you can sneak through that Bloodthrone Vampire, be lethal almost immediately.
Now, Toot just drew a land, and he also has an Absence Pilgrim. So that would be the 6th land he needs to activate, to cast Garrett Caller of Beasts. It also gives him enough mana to activate his Gavany Township.
Yeah, I'm counting 5 lands, but Gavany Township.
He has a land in his hand and a
I see what you're saying.
In his hand.
Okay, yeah, so we could cast Garrick if he wanted to. Actually, is kind of threatening a huge behemoth right now.
Yes.
On top of everything else. Of course, he doesn't actually have it, but that Gavany Township could get out of hand really quick.
Looks like they're doing some type of math, pointing at the Gavany Township. Must be township math.
Now, if Miedzvetsky gets 1 more land for his Falkenrath Aristocrat, I believe that is exactly lethal. That's 7 points of evasive damage with the Lifebane Zombie and the Aristocrat, plus 4 creatures equals 4 Blood Artist triggers. No, because there's no way to... Oh, no, you can sack to the Aristocrat.
Yes.
So sacking the Bloodthrone Vampire means you still have a sack outlet to sack the Blood Artist.
Exactly. So the Elemental comes in. It's a 4/4 right now. Mana is positioned as if it will soon be a 5/5.
Tapping the Avacyn's Pilgrim is itself a little bit risky here, just because it's relatively trivial to have 2 removal spells or a single Flames of the Firebrand if you're a black-red deck.
You think he's trying to disguise the fact that he can play Garrick next turn? Or is this a more efficient use of his mana?
I just think it's a better use of his mana. I mean, I don't even know if he's about to do it. I think he's going to just cast Garrick if he... Or sorry, he can't cast Garrick.
Well, he could have set up casting Garrick next turn.
Right, by announcing the Pilgrim. And it looks like that's what he's going to do. Which also just gives him another blocker if it comes down to it.
So Miedziecki off the top gets a Doomblade. That kills a lot of things, according to the Twitter account.
The Doomblade guy?
Yeah.
One of the better Magic-related Twitter accounts out there.
Sorry, how ability Garrett? Ability of Garrett. Ability Garrett.
Trying to find out how much Garrett costs to cast.
Yeah.
I believe it's 6.
6 to cast. I think he might also be asking about the abilities and what they are.
He's got some good abilities. See if we can get Garrick up so that we all can take a look.
Which Garrett?
Yeah, which Garrett is the next question.
there are quite a few Garricks.
Yeah, there's more than one Garrick.
He has worn a lot of hats. I may know a little something about wearing.
You know something about wearing a lot of hats?
Yeah.
Here's Garrett Caller Beast. So +1, -3, -7.
So the +1 is, if you're familiar with the card Lead the Stampede, reveal top 5 cards. You get to keep all the creatures. So in decks like David Toots, it could be draw 5.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the -3 is you may put a green creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, which in Toots deck could be +7 mana.
Yeah.
Easily. And then, it has some -7 where you get an emblem where you win the game or something. It does something ridiculous, I'm sure, as most emblems do.
I never noticed this before, but it's kind of like Lead the Stampede, Dramatic Entrance, and Tooth and Nail, all on a single card.
Well, it's more like an upgrade on Wild Pair.
Sort of like an upgrade. Yeah, it's any creature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You basically get the creature you cast and whatever creature you'd like.
Anything you want. I'll get Progenitus. All right. So we're seeing more nickel and diming going on with Blood Artist.
Yep, so Doomblade's going to kill the token. The token still goes to the graveyard. That means Pavel's going to go up to 6, and David's going to go down to 10. Gravecrawler gets cast from the graveyard. There's plenty of zombies on the battlefield to allow that to happen. I guess there's only one.
Yeah,
That's
one
plenty.
is all you need.
One's plenty.
And we see, again, a ton of cards in Miedziecki's hand, but none of them particularly relevant at this moment. Garrett Calliver Beasts in Toot's hand. That can hit the table, draw a bunch of cards, but the bottom line is that Miedziecki is going to get one more turn. Again, electing not to attack with that Lifebane zombie, clearly fearing something bad happening right now.
Now, David Toot picked up another land. It's a Gavany Township, which, redundancy on that card doesn't help you too much, but that does allow him to attack with all his creatures and have enough mana to activate one of those Gavany Townships.
Right. No, that's true. It also means that if he does cast Garrick, he doesn't have to tap both of his Evison's Pilgrims to do that.
Yeah, I know, right?
I think he disagreed with you.
All right,
So-
yeah, Garrick's exactly what we see.
Everyone loves a good Garrick.
Garrick is like Raymond.
So let's see how the lottery goes. Well, that's 2 cards Garrick doesn't get. There's one. There's another. So, draw 2, Elvish Archdruid and a Wolfield Silverheart.
And merely 2 colossal threats. No big deal, right? I guess the Avison's Pilgrim's not elves, so Archdruid less relevant than it could be in some states, but still, an extra 2 mana with double Gavany Township is nothing to sneeze at.
It also changes the Elvish Visionary into a 2/2.
Yes,
I'm not sure.
that is what it does.
Considering it.
Maybe in a 4/4 eventually. And again, still at a semi-healthy 10 life. Again, no attack from the Lifebane zombie last turn, but chaining those Gravecrawlers with that Blood Artist means that this game has the potential to be over in a hurry.
That's right. Every black mana that Miedziecki uses is essentially a drain life for 1.
Right, which not only capable of killing David, but capable of keeping himself alive as well.
So are we looking at lethal with the life main? Well, we don't have enough. Well, now we're looking at lethal with this 4th land.
Yeah, 4th land means that Falkenrath Aristocrat can hit the table, but it looks like it's not going to. It's possible our life totals are not yet up to date either.
It could be just a little bit of conservative play.
Yeah, it totally could.
I'm thinking.
Because any way that David blocks, he's going to take damage to that grave crawler. Either 2 creatures are going to die, or Gravecrawler is going to hit him for 2.
Yeah, and there's also a Geralt's Messenger in Miadzewski's hand, which is 4 damage just waiting to happen.
That's exactly right.
5 to 6 damage, actually, because of the Blood Artist.
And that can kill your opponent without or without you having to pick up all of your cards and sacrifice them in case something goes wrong.
It's like when you're at the part of those choose your own adventure books, and it doesn't matter what you do because you already made the one wrong turn where you always hit you always hit the same outcome. That's exactly what we have here.
All right, so yeah, we're just seeing, Geralt's Messenger plus Gravecrawler, he says, I'm going to play these, I'm going to start sacrificing them. Do you have anything that stops that?
That doesn't cost mana, or just 1 white mana.
Is it Angel's Mercy, perhaps, or Angel's Grace? Right. Yeah, he's...
Yeah, you know what? The team, one team is saying, hey, you're dead. You should just concede. But the other team's not.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're playing at the World Magic Cup. You know, if you're going to beat me, beat me.
Yeah, if you're going to beat all of us.
Right.
Because, every now and then you kind of know you have lost the game and you're willing to concede that fact to those cards that you really can't do anything about. But, there's 3 other people on your side that maybe they have something that you didn't think about.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I mean, sometimes your opponent messes up the operations. I mean, Steve Sadin, really good friend of mine, famously did not know how the Hulk Flash combo worked in a Grand Prix that he won.
he figured it out before the finals, though.
I mean, I've done stuff like that. I played Allurin and made the finals of a PTQ and didn't realize it gave my opponent the Allurin ability. That was not my proudest moment, but I certainly learned that it did after I lost to it. Didn't make that mistake again.
All right, so there the Geralt Messenger is going off, as so is Miadzewski, and there is the hand. So Miadzewski wins 2-1 over David Tooth.
Wow. And that was a match.
We'd like to thank Card House Games for being an official card retailer here at Worlds Week. Enter the code AMS10 when ordering at cardhousegames.com for 10% off your next purchase. For more information, visit cardhousegames.com. And we are going to head back to the back table with Stefano Rampini versus Ihar Klionski.
Now remember this matchup, the blue-white-red deck versus the red-green deck, popularized just a few days ago by Brian Kibler. Yep, you cut out on us. Okay. Thanks.
All right, so here we are at the back table. These players are tied at 1 apiece. We have Stefano Rampini versus Ihar Klionski. And there is some Mutavault beatdown going on right here. It's been a while since I've seen that.
Yeah, the singleton copy of Mutavault in Rampini's deck crashing into the red zone here, threatening to end this game 2 points of damage in time.
Wait, but there's that unfortunate non-synergy in the Restoration Angel decks with Mutavault.
Yeah, it's an angel.
Yeah, that guy's an angel.
Can't flicker it out.
It's an angel and a dragon, as Luis Scott Vargas likes to remind everyone.
Is it an angel of the morning?
I don't know.
Yeah, and not a whole lot going on for Klionski. Rampini all the way down to 5 life, but Klionski with just Elvish Mystic and another Elvish Arbor Elf on the table. No Kessig Wolfrun in sight, meaning that Rampini at 5 is still firmly in the driver's seat.
And we have just heard that at the front table, Sean Fitzgerald has won 2-1 versus Ihor Polshak.
So that ties the teams up at 1. Yep. That means this is a big match for both teams. But you got to be pretty happy if you're Rampini right now. At
you mean in full control of a game against a mono green-red map grip that doesn't have anything other than an Arbor Elf? That's a good position to be in when you're the control deck.
A little bit, yes.
It's a bad position to be when you're in the green deck. I've been there. It doesn't feel nice.
Oh, it doesn't?
Not at all.
So we see another elf hit the board, but again, without a Kessig Wolf run, these are not exactly huge threats.
They are not exactly huge threats.
They would be good in your Seaton deck, though.
They would. They would tap for a green mana. So Mutavault gets activated again, and it comes in with the Restoration Angel. Ehar slowly ticking down the life total. This is going to be 5. That'll bring him down to 13, and he still has nothing in hand or on board that really can put him in. He has no board position, but he does pick up a Strangleroot Geist.
Yeah, we see Rampini, Snapcaster Mage. Although it doesn't look like there's quite a full graveyard, you might start seeing those Pillar of Flames get played in flashback. We've got Azorius Charm to protect against any Thundermaw Hellkite shenanigans. We've got Oblivion Ring in case something hits the board on the main phase, but that still obliges Rampini to do something about these cards.
So down comes Snapcaster Mage.
Oh,
It's
okay.
going to War Leader's Helix. So that's going to be 4 more damage. Stefano is going to go up to 12. Ehar down to 9. And that's 3 attacks from the Restoration Angel. The ground's pretty stalled over on Ehar's side, so
Yeah, and I was wrong when I said there wasn't a lot in the graveyard for Snapcaster. I was looking up the O-Ring, thinking that was the graveyard and something was exiled. No,
Oh.
there's a graveyard full of juice.
yeah. And we
Looks
are
like.
really getting aggressive over from Stefano. We are attacking with everything. The only trade that's going to happen is the Snapcaster Mage, which I can't imagine that Rapini is actually concerned about.
No, the blocks there from Kleonski, I believe, are to protect him against yet another War Leader's Helix. From the Augur of Bolas and the Angel, he would fall from 9 to 5, still staying safely out of War Leader's Helix range. We just saw Azorius Charm target the Elf. Now, he doesn't care about the Elf, doesn't care about the Snapcaster Mage. What that means is he knows exactly what Kleonski's next draw is going to be.
What is it?
And it is, in fact, an Elvish Mystic.
Oh, that's not very good.
And so more Mystics hitting the table, but that means that Rampini essentially dictating the pace of this game.
So both of the Mystics come down, and there is a second Restoration Angel that was timed, but it didn't matter. That Restoration Angel gets the concession, and Rampini wins it for his team.
Wow. What a tight series. This Irish team just generating win after narrow win. Been incredibly exciting to watch this weekend.
And we will have a little chat with Team Ireland in just a bit. I believe that they lost the previous round. Both of these teams actually lost the previous round. There was a little, key at that showed us. It was a little confusion because it said 0-1-0-1, but I knew what it meant. And we're back in the booth now. Rashad Miller, Zach Hill. What's so funny?
you got it all under control.
I know.
Rashad. You know what's going on. You know the records. You have a little sprite on your shoulder telling you what the results are.
I get a little bit lucky every now and then, a little bit lucky. So, first of all, I love seeing mono green. It's great to see when the decks can be spread out so that I can see mono green.
Oh, yeah, that deck
it's really
rules.
autographed, man.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad that it makes you happy. What makes me happy is that red-black list, too. I'm pretty intrigued by that. I played red-black at the Grand Prix Atlantic City, the one time a year I get to play Magic, and seeing this update on that, Lightbane Zombie Geroffs, some great aggressive zombies, the innovation of Blood Artist in that deck, saying, nah, you don't have to be the aristocrats. I play an aristocrat. That's good enough for me, and again, in concert with Geroffs, that can turn into a lot of damage.
That deck was very Sam Black.
It was Sam Blackian.
Yes. Sam Black-ish. All right, so let's send it back down to the feature match area with Brian David Marshall, who is talking with Team Ireland.
Hi, everybody. Brian David Marshall here in the feature match area. Again with Team Ireland. We saw them yesterday. We just saw them defeat Belarus. Guys, I understand that an international rivalry has been developing for you guys over the course of this tournament. There are some, natural enemies your country has had in the past, but this is not a traditional one. Tell us what's going on.
I don't think they're aware of it yet. but we're going to let them know.
Their phones are about to blow up.
Estonia are the only country that have beaten us so far in the tournament. Twice. So they did it once in the limited and they did it again in the constructed. So all our other natural rivals are out of the tournament, and obviously we need somebody to drive us on. So we've picked Estonia. It seems fair.
Looking for a little revenge at some point on Sunday?
If it's in the top 2, we'll settle. Yeah, if they beat us in the top 2, we'll go with that. It's okay. We'll let them off. But yes, it would be nice to get some revenge.
Mr. Toot, how has your elf ball deck been treating you?
I keep going 2-1 in the last 2 games. I had Garrick on 5 with a Crater Hoof on top, so I just wanted to untap to swing for millions, but unfortunately wasn't the case. He had lots and lots of zombies with a Blood Artist, just didn't work out. Hopefully the next one.
Okay, and Mr. Rampini, I saw that you had a very exciting match against Red Green Aggro. Tell us how that played out for you.
It was very, very close. So in game 1, I just had all the answer for his creatures and his spells. Game 2, I lost from the new mana buffs, the Burning Earth. And this game was very close. He had this big boost, and he just missed one. He just missed to remove my Sphinx Revelation, so I could flash it back with Snapcaster and bring my life up to 9. And then I was in control of the game, and it was fun.
Yeah, I was actually watching when he was like almost dead. And then he somehow managed to pull it off. I was like, wow, crazy.
That seems to be the best thing about the blue-white-red deck is you can be almost dead and then very healthy very quickly. You guys said yesterday that your phones were blowing up. People from home were messaging you. Has that continued overnight? And what has the response been like back in Ireland or various adopted Irelands?
The response has only increased. The support is massive. People are, being very supportive. We're getting loads of messages. Everybody's so happy, so proud of what we've done. And like we've talked before, how much we have a tight-knit community. Everybody knows everybody. So it's not just, oh, this is my national team. We happen to be friends with everybody that we're playing with as well. So it makes it a little bit more special for them. And we've even heard that people in other countries are getting happy, at how well we're doing. Apparently Paul Reitzel wants to join the Irish team, so he's totally welcome. All he has to do is come on over to Dublin. We'll welcome him in. Be nice to have a second Hall of Fame eligible person in our country. So yeah.
All right, well, you can talk to him about that in October when he visits.
Exactly, yeah, it'd be brilliant.
All right, for Team Ireland, this is Brian David Marshall sending it back to the booth.
You know what I gathered the most from that interview?
Magic?
Attacking for millions with Crater Hoof Behemoth. And I know what everyone's out there saying. I'm wearing a Swamp T-shirt. Yeah, but
Poser.
It's laundry day. What can I say?
Doesn't a swamp just get somebody else to do their laundry?
I don't know how that works.
Oh, okay. I'm just going to refer to you as Black Magic Woman now.
But I can always still do this.
Still counts.
All right, let's head back to the news desk so you guys can find out what else happened during this round.
Welcome back to the news desk. Marshall Sutcliffe here. A lot of action from the tournament floor. A lot of results coming in as we speak. I have Rich Hagan at our wall with updates on the scores. Got a lot of stuff for you in this short period of time. Let's send it over to Rich for now. We'll come back in a minute. Got some interviews, got some stuff to talk about. Rich, what's going on the floor, buddy?
Oh, yeah.
Easy.
Thanks, Marshall. Yeah. Hi there, everyone. So we're down to 1 round to go. Things are getting very, very tight in some of these pools. So let me tell you where we stand. Let's begin with pool number 1. We'll take a look up on the big board. So we have Ireland, Belarus, Estonia, and Hungary. Now, Belarus, they have just lost in this round, of course, to Ireland. Ireland are now 1-1. Belarus are 0-2. And at that point, Belarus are gone. They are out. You will not be seeing them in Sunday action. Great run, though. Top 16, a terrific performance for them. You see Estonia 2-0. They have the magic sign. They are in. Hannes Karem. Mick Kasich is on that team. Simon Roberts back from last year. They will be in the top 8. Hungary, meanwhile, well, they're still looking to get in. So what you have there is a straightforward all the marbles matchup. They did it last time, Ireland. They lost the first round, won the middle round, and then got in by being virtue of top seed. They're top seed again. If they can win their deciding match against Hungary, they will be in the top 8. The Hungarians, Coxis, Nag, if they can win against Ireland, they will be in to join Estonia safely through to the top 8. Let's take a look at pool number 2. Now this one is pretty complicated, I'm not going to lie. Unfortunately, there's no star next to anyone, and that includes, look at this isn't a misprint, Greece 2-0, but no star next to their name. Why? Because seeds matter. They're the 3rd seed coming in here. So this is how it could end up. For France, they play Israel. 1 plays 4, 2 plays 3 here in the final round. If France win, they're in. They were top seed. French win over the Israelis, who, by the way, are already gone, of course, at 0-2. So Shahar Shenhar will see him tomorrow, but not in team play. If France win over Israel, they're in. They are also in if Iceland lose to Greece. So a French win or an Iceland loss, vive la France, Levy and co. into Sunday action. Now Iceland, they're in control of their own destiny. There they are in 2nd place, 1-1. If they beat the Greeks, they're in at 2-1, because the Greeks would also have a 2-1 record. What's the tiebreak? Iceland the 7th seed overall, Greece the 10th seed overall. Iceland advance with a win over Greece. For Greece, it looks like this. First of all, beat Iceland. That would help. That guarantees it, 3-0, of course that's in. But they also get in if Israel do them a favour and beat France. You'd end up with France at 1-2, Israel at 1-2, Greece at 2-1, Iceland at 2-1. So Greece have got multiple ways in. One more time. France, win or an Iceland loss. For Iceland, if they win, they're in. And for Greece, a win or a French loss. But right now, how much the Greeks feel? They came and talked to me after their win. They went, are we in? They looked, they went, we're 3rd seed. We're not in, even with 2-0. Work to do for the Greeks, Simon Bertier and friends. Let's go to pod 3. Here we go. Finally, someone else who's in. Austria are in, despite this slightly strange-looking pod with a draw in it earlier on. That was between Austria and Belgium, kicking the pod off. So this is actually very straightforward. Austria on 4 points, even if they lose their last round to Ukraine, who are 0-2 and gone. Goodbye, Mike Krasnitsky. Great effort making the top 16, but will not be back in the top 8. It looks like this. A straight shootout, one of the biggest matches we've ever seen in team play. It's going to be Brazil against Belgium. Enzo Reala, Willie Adel, Alisson Abe for Brazil. And you're going to see Vantegen, Delvine, Leibert and Lemoine for Belgium. I've mispronounced all of them. They're sitting over there and they're probably mocking me savagely. Well deserved. So Brazil, Belgium, straight out win and in for the top 8 of the World Magic Cup. And that leads us to Pool 4. Now this is an interesting one. Let's take a look. Chile 1-1, Czech Republic 1-1. South Africa are now 0-2 and their run comes to an end as a result of their loss to New Zealand in this last round. New Zealand, bottom seed, 2-0. This is the Greek story all over again. They're 2-0, Walker McMurdo, the Grand Prix Auckland champion, national champion. They still are pretty much there, we think, 2-0. So this is what's left. Chile play New Zealand, 1-4. Let's say Chile win. They go to 2-1. New Zealand fall to 2-1. If the Czech Republic beat South Africa, who are already out, the Czechs would go to 2-1. It would be a pod of 2-1, 2-1, 2-1, and 0-3. At which point New Zealand, despite being 2-1, they're the bottom seeds, they would be out. So like Greece, they've won their first 2, but they can't be sure of getting in. So that's how things stand as we head to the final round of pool play here at the World Magic Cup. Marshall's got a couple of great guests sitting at the desk. Marshall, it's back to you.
Thanks, Rich. A lot of exciting stuff heading down the stretch. And one of the teams that we just heard about was Belgium. I have 2 members of the Belgian team, Morin Libert, Vincent Lemoine. Welcome to the desk, guys.
Hello.
And we just heard you guys are going to be playing a win-in against Brazil upcoming shortly. Morin, you've been doing coverage for Wizards at Grand Prix. What's it been like for you to transfer back into the player seat after having been in the cover seat for a little while?
Well, I've still been playing while I've been doing coverage, so and it's kind of actually the same. Even when I'm doing coverage, I'm kind of playing the game and I'm thinking about the right play. So
it keeps your mind sharp?
It does, and so now coming back, it's not that different than honestly.
Now, Vincent, talk a little bit about the team, the other two players on your team, and how testing and everything went to lead up to this event.
Yeah, the other teammate are Emmanuel Delving and Xavier Van Tighem. They are both from the French part of Belgium, but actually Belgium is not that big, so we don't have to spend hours and hours to meet. It was like half an hour, 40 minutes. So we test one time in Brussels, then one time in Ghent where Marijn live, and then we go back in Brussels another time.
Okay, now when you guys met up, what was the biggest hurdle for you? Did you try to tackle the constructed decks first, or did you do a lot of limited practice?
No, we did a lot of constructed, because we have to figure out first how you can split the deck that exists in standard, and then figure out what the other team they are going to think and overthink them. But that's really hard.
And Ryan, what were the big challenges from the constructed perspective? Go ahead and use the mic.
Well, like we could make 3 decks, but like we needed to anticipate like what are they going to play, and what like we could make 3 good decks, but they could be worse in the meta game. Like if everyone plays blue white red, you cannot play white weenie. I had a good white weenie list, but it couldn't beat blue white red, and we expected every team to have blue white red.
And we're going to have a metagame breakdown in the next segment after that is going to prove you correct. Almost everybody did. Yeah. So where did that leave you guys?
So we knew we wanted to play blue white red because Vincent, he plays it a lot and he's very good with it. So after that we had like choices. We could go Jaunt and another mono red deck or a mono green deck, but we didn't really like mono green or mono red, so I didn't want to play that.
Okay.
So we chose to go with red green and black green. I'm not going to say the black-green deck is very good, because honestly
is there a little regret to that decision?
Honestly, it isn't very good. But I thought the black-green deck, at least it could beat the random decks. Like I expected, like the third deck to be mono red, mono green, mono white, and at least the black-green deck was good against that. And it's also good against hexproof. So
what does that black-green deck do? Is it heavy black? Is it even split? What kind of deck is it?
It's mostly black for mutilate and a lot of removals and Lilianas, but there's also some green cards, Scavenging Ooze, Track Tusk, that's mainly it, and there's also Primeval Bounty, which is just awesome in the control matchups.
Oh yeah, we saw that on camera a few times and it did a lot of work. Now, what about the limited portion, Vincent? Did you guys get to crack a bunch of packs and do some team sealed? Yeah. It's a much different world than regular sealed.
The M14 is okay. We do a bunch of this, but it was okay. It was quite kind of easy. Each player take a color, and it's easy to figure out what to do. The Return to Ravnica Gate Crash was a lot worse, but we didn't test that much this format. It was so complicated, and last year we we test too much for day 2, and we didn't make day 2, so all the test was kind of.
You weighted the test for day 1 for what you knew you were going to be playing. And did you come up with any strategies for the Return to Ravnica block team sealed, or was
Not really. We tried to find the best solution.
Yeah, just do the normal, like, look, let's see what we have, but you didn't put a whole lot of effort into trying to figure out the metagame for that.
No.
Yeah, and that's how it goes. Now, what about sideboards for your constructed decks? Did you guys grind a whole bunch of games and really test out like all the matchups, or did you kind of have to come to some conclusion as far as which decks to take and leave it at that?
I think for the blue white red we tested a lot with Cyber. We even got some sweet tech for the mirror.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's Peter Viren. He gave us a tech for the mirror. Just played 3 Eaterling and Cavern of Souls because it's kind of unbeatable in the mirror.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We have these, but for the other 2 decks we didn't have like we didn't play a lot with Cyber. We did make sure that our green black deck could beat control after boarding, but that's about it.
Okay, and that was about all the time that you guys had before you had to come here and actually compete with the decks. Okay, well, it looks like we're about ready to go down to our next match, so I want to thank you guys for your time and wish you luck against Brazil. It's going to be a big one last round. And yeah, I am told that we are now ready to go down to the desk where Zach and Rashad await to bring you the final round here from the World Magic Cup.
Hi there, everyone. Yeah, it's me, back at the wall, just bringing you some news, and sounds like the feature match wasn't, in fact, quite ready. It's not a massive surprise, seeing as it's Belgium who are in there. Belgium against Brazil. So let's just walk you through those 4 feature match permutations through the 4 pods one more time. Luis Scott Vargas is joining us at the desk in just a moment. So let's look at the pods one last time. Quick reminder of how we stand. In pod 1, Estonia are going to be in. That much is guaranteed. Ireland and Hungary in pod 1, they are looking at a straight up win and in match. Okay, so that's what you have for Marcin Szynski of Ireland. The Hungarians, they straightforwardly need to beat Ireland. In pod 2, France are in with a win or an Iceland loss. Iceland, they just need to win their match against Greece. As long as Greece win, they're in, and it doesn't even matter if they lose, as long as France also loses. Let's look at pod number 3. Austria are in that one, and it is that big set-piece matchup between Brazil and Belgium for the top 8. And then finally, pod 4, this is the really, really messy one with 100 permutations. The key thing is this: Chile are the top seed with a win already. They face the number 4 seed, which is New Zealand, and there, with 1 against 2, you're looking at Chile. They need to win to be sure. New Zealand certainly need to win to be sure. And then you've got the Czech Republic and South Africa. Only South Africa are out of that one in pod 4. You can see various pods going on behind me. But I'm going to send you back to the desk. We've got Marshall Sutcliffe and Luis Scott Vargas down there. And guys, I know that with 1 round to go, you're going to give us a little minute to look at the metagame breakdown for this Team Unified Standard.
Yeah, let's take a look at this. So, Luis, I just had a chance to talk to Marijn Leiber, and he said they expected to see a lot of blue, white, red here this weekend. That was a prediction that he had, and they made some deck adjustments accordingly. Now, we've got a graphic that was put together by Frank Karsten for us. Let's bring that up right now. That's going to give us a look at the actual metagame breakdown for the 16 teams still remaining. And Marijn Leiber looks pretty smart right now.
Yeah, he wasn't the only one who predicted a lot of blue, white, red. And as it turns out, it looks like 14 of the top 16 decks, or 13 actually, are blue, white, red, because I don't believe that the Ukraine is on there. The reason being, as Frank told us earlier, it's the only deck, or the only team that does not have a stomping ground deck in it.
Right, and if you look down the middle, though, the blue deck portion there, all of them blue-white flash. There's a blue-black control, 2 blue-white flashes, which play somewhat similarly to the blue-white-red.
I would kind of lump them in the same category.
I would too, and then a hexproof deck kind of randomly in there from Greece.
Yeah, that was a blue deck, not a blue control deck, but certainly a blue deck.
Yeah, now Marijn Leiber, he took a look at this and he thought that you mentioned, I mean, look, you're friends with all these guys. You know a lot of the players that were competing here. You said that a lot of people knew that blue, white, red was going to be kind of one of the main pillars.
Yeah, it was actually interesting that coming in about a week ago when I was talking with Josh, we expected Jund midrange and blue, white, red flash or blue, white to be like 2 main decks. And actually, Brian Kibler threw a wrench into that plan despite not playing in the World Magic Cup.
Yeah, now let's take a look at what happened there. We see on the left-hand column, it's the stomping ground category. So these are decks that take advantage of that particular, and basically a red-green base deck. And we see that it's only broken up into 2 categories there, Luis, Gruul aggro and Jund midrange. So you're saying that you think, I mean, we actually know for the most part that a lot of these Gruul aggro decks were a result of Brian Kibler's World Championship deck.
Yeah, and it's not to say that he was the one who invented the deck, since it already existed, but if you look at them, most of those lists are very close to the one he played in the World Championship, because, I mean, they figure if someone like Kibler is playing it in the World Championship, it's probably a good list, and at least something they should be testing in the day or 2 they had before the World Magic Cup started.
Right, and it also seems that, you know, if that particular list didn't take too many cards from any other of the archetypes, that you could put that together pretty easily here in a Unified Standard.
Right, and that's like a big key for Unified, is that the Gruul aggro deck wasn't greedy for all the black cards, and that's what, if you look at all the way to the right, most of the decks, the teams that played Gruul aggro ended up getting to play a black deck in the 3rd category.
Oh, wow, yeah, I can see that actually just directly across. A lot of junk aristocrats, white, black, red aristocrats, and then zombies, black, green, mid-range, green, black, red zombies. The only one that's the exception is the Bant hexproof on the far right. But then if you look at the decks that played Jund midrange in their stomping ground category, their 3rd deck, which is kind of whatever else was left and they wanted to play, it looks like it's a bunch of green, white, and you know, heavy green builds.
Some mono red decks. Like basically, if you look at uniformly, the Jund decks couldn't afford another black deck on the team.
Yeah, and so that's actually a really interesting slot that gets filled up from Gruul. You know, looking at the 3rd deck, What deck stands out to you? What do you like out of those?
Actually, my favorite deck of all of them is the Green White Hoof deck. We were calling it Elf Ball earlier. It's basically, you know, elves into Elvish Archdruid, into Garruk, into Crater Hoof, and I like that style.
You do enjoy that style of Magic.
But I also really like the green, black, red zombies and the black, red zombies.
Now, why do you like the green, black, red zombies specifically?
I like that Lot Left Troll actually gives the deck a lot more staying power, especially against sweepers like Bonfire and Supreme Verdict. And because you already want Cavernous Souls in the deck, it actually doesn't put quite as much of a strain on the mana as you'd expect a third color to do so in an aggro deck.
You know, that's something interesting that we saw, Luis. A lot of the decks that people built were built with blue, white, red flash in mind, and therefore with Supreme Verdict also in mind.
Yeah, Unified Standard is an interesting beast. So for the most part, you can actually assume that you know 2 of the matchups already.
Yeah, and that's really interesting how that's actually panned out. Now, you know, one of the views that we don't normally get is from the player perspective, and you've played in so many high-level tournaments here. There's actually a lot of information that gets distributed at the event level.
Right. It actually is a kind of like a curve where the couple days before the Pro Tour, every day you get more and more information. And it was the same here at the World Magic Cup and the World Championships. World Championships, people kept a slightly tighter lid on things. There's only 16 players.
Right.
But for the World Magic Cup, they not only got to see the World Championship decks, they also got to see all the people coming to the event, what the dealers had for sale, all these cards that kind of impacted how you were going to build your deck.
Yeah, there's all these funny little pieces of information that you can get a source from the dealers, and maybe somebody heard something. You know,
a big one is actually Magic Online. Before the Pro Tour, you can actually look at the list that do well in daily events on Magic Online and actually find people testing their Pro Tour decks because it's such a good testing tool.
So if they do too well, it actually works against them?
Yeah, actually before Pro Tour Nagoya, Channel Fire, we all played Tempered Steel. It was a good deck, and I actually ended up making top 8. But the actual best deck of the tournament was the deck that a lot of the guys from Florida played, like Pat Cox and David Sharpman both made top 8 playing the deck. It was the Pure Steel Paladin equipment deck.
I remember that.
It was like a actually better Tempered Steel because it was better in the mirror.
Oh, that's interesting.
And as a result, Sharpman won the Pro Tour. But you could see that list on Magic Online. We saw their testing partners playing it and doing well. So we could have switched if we didn't like our deck.
Now, I was actually going to ask you about that, Luis. So, you know, when we get a look at a graphic like this, and we've got a pretty steady first 2 sections where people are playing one of a couple of decks.
Mostly right down the line there.
Yeah, mostly right down the line. Now, as that starts to become apparent to you when you reach the site where the event's going to be played, when you start gathering more information, when you start hearing things, there's this temptation to change decks. Is that, in your opinion, is that like the correct move?
The problem you have here is that there's really no deck that significantly beats both those 2 decks. Otherwise, it would be one of those 2 decks.
Okay.
It's hard to find a deck that completely crushes the metagame because this is just kind of a snapshot of the normal standard metagame.
Yeah, this does look a lot like it. Last thing I wanted to ask you, Luis, I'm told that the players are just about set here, is you just mentioned this looks like a rough snapshot of the standard metagame. What can people that play non-unified standard take away from this?
Well, that green red aggro, Jund midrange, and blue white red flash are all very good choices.
Yeah, and it sort of just makes it abundantly clear when we get it in form like this. All right, so I am told players are ready.
Elimination match.
You know, I haven't actually checked what our feature match. I'm assuming that it's Belgium versus
Brazil.
Brazil, yeah. And so why don't we send it down to Zach and Rashad right now to bring you the last round here from the World Magic Cup.